Hello everyone, good morning. Actually, I'm still learning to pronounce some words well, but through story, you can improve your ability. So don't forget to subscribe and click the bell if you want to learn together with me. Let's read English stories with Miss Durma. Enjoy it! Welcome to the United Arab Emirates. The author of this story is Kekhasan Basu. She lives in the United Arab Emirates. Kekhasan is passionate about working for peace and sustainability. She was born on 5th June, which is also World Environment Day. So she feels that she just had to grow up to be an eco-warrior. Kekhasan founded a youth organization called Green Hope Foundation, which works to help the environment. It now has over 1,000 members across the Middle East. It now has over 1,000 members across the Middle East, India, Brazil, USA, and Canada. Kekhasan enjoys singing, reading, traveling, writing, painting, and playing the piano and guitar. The Tree of Hope by Kekhasan Basu. In a small village on the edge of a vast, harsh desert lived a little girl, Kadra, and her mother. The sun beat down unforgivingly on her village from early morning until night, soaking up all the moisture. The heat was especially unforgiving in the middle of the day and drove everyone indoors. Like any other little girl, Kadra hated being cooped up inside the house and wanted desperately to play outside with her friends. But her mother would have none of it. She was afraid that Kadra would get heat stroke if she spent the afternoon outside. So Kadra spent the long afternoon staring out of the window at the undulating sands, which shimmered in the heat haze and waiting for dusk so that she could go out and play. She longed for the weather to change so that she could spend more time outdoors. She loved her home and village but wished that it was a little less hot and sunny. Little did she realize that very soon she would have the answer to her dreams. One morning, Kadra was woken up early by her mother, who asked her to go to the village well to fetch water. Water was very precious in their village, and the single well at the village square was its only source. Every day, there were long queues of residents at the well waiting for a turn to haul up their daily requirements of water. On that day, Kadra's mother asked her to go early and get some water because she was expecting a guest at their house and wanted to finish cooking in time for his arrival. It was a chore, which Kadra enjoyed as she met most of her friends at the well. She also loved the splashy sounds of water and its cool, shooting fall. The well was very deep and looked a bit scary as she peered over the parapet. That day, she hurriedly collected the water, slung the bucket on her back, and hurried back home as she, too, was excited at the prospect of meeting the guest. Kadra did not really know who he was, except that he was her mother's distant cousin who was a traveler of sorts. Kadra loved to listen to stories, especially of distant, exotic, faraway lands, and she hoped that her visiting uncle would have a tale or two for her. Kadra's uncle finally arrived in the hot afternoon, carrying a very big bag on his back. He had a craggy but friendly face with the most twinkly eyes Kadra had ever seen. Kadra was very intrigued by him. She couldn't wait for their meal to be over, as she wanted to hear stories of her uncle's travels. She was also very curious to find out what was inside her uncle's heavy bag, which he had placed carefully by the door. Finally, they finished lunch, and her mother went into the kitchen to clean up, warning Kadra to not pester her uncle and to allow him to rest. Her uncle smiled at the crestfallen look on Kadra's face and whispered to her that he was not really tired and would love to chat with her. Delighted, Kadra started asking him to tell her about his most recent adventures. Her uncle said that he had been to another part of the world which had the most amazing forests and trees. He described how many years ago that part of the world was also barren and dry, much like Kandra's village. But somehow the local people had found a way of changing all that. They had found a plant which could grow and flourish with very little water. Every time there was a happy occasion, like a birthday or a wedding, they planted a sapling to celebrate the event. The intention was to encourage people to plant more trees. Soon, over time, the whole area became green. As if to prove his point, Katra's uncle asked her to bring his bag, telling her to be careful. He invited her to open it. With excited fingers, Kadra untied the strings, and to her surprise, there was a small sapling in a pot. The plant had a very strange leaves, thick and leathery. Her uncle said that the leaves were amazing and they store water. This was the plant's specialty. The plant was capable of saving every drop of available water from its surroundings, thus enabling it to survive long periods of drought. Kadra's uncle said that this tree was a gift from him to her. He told her that her name meant green in Arabic and that maybe she was destined to be the person to seed her village's landscape with the color green. Kadra was overjoyed. This was the most ecstatic gift she had ever received. She gave her uncle a big hug and ran to her mother to share her excitement. Before he left, her uncle explained to Kadra how to plant and take care of the tree. He told her to find a place in her backyard which was in the shade and to plant it there. He also taught Kadra to save a mug of water from her bath every day and use it to water the plant. It needed very little water, he explained, as it survived on the morning dew. As he departed, he reminded Kadra that once the tree had grown, she could collect the seeds from the plant's fruits. He told her to give these seeds to her friends on their birthday and to encourage them to also plant the trees. He hoped Kadra would take on the responsibility to live up to her name. That evening, Kadra gathered her friends in her backyard and narrated to them the events of the afternoon. She showed them the plan which she had been given by her uncle. Together, they dug a hole and planted the sapling. Time passed, and Kadra's sapling flowered and grew into a large, imposing tree. Its branches and leaves overshadowed during even the harshest of summers. No longer did Kadra have to stay cooped up indoors during the afternoons. She, along with her friends, spent happy hours sitting under the tree's shade or up in its leafy branches. Birds that had never before been seen in the village miraculously appeared and nested in the tree. Their morning song now woke Kadra up every day. Following her uncle's instructions, her friends plucked the tree's berries and planted the seeds in their own backyards. The village elders looked on indignantly at the children's antics, with some shaking their heads as if to say that it was all waste of time. No one noticed at first, but soon it did seem as if the evenings were becoming cooler. Some of the villagers even saw clouds on the horizons, something which had not been seen in many years. The backyard of each house in the village now had one or more trees in various stages of bloom, each cared for by one of the children. Kadra could no longer see the harsh desert sands from her room's back window. Her tree of hope, with its lush green foliage and chirping birds, over a beautiful green vista instead. Then, finally, the unthinkable happened. Storm clouds filled up the sky, and heavy drops of rain splattered on the parched earth. The whole village came out to feel the rainwater wash away the dust and sun greens which had engulfed the villagers for so long. Kadra and her friends danced for joy and drank the cool rainwater until they could drink no more. Then Kadra ran to her tree and hugged its trunk tightly to say thank you. It had changed her village into an oasis. It was indeed the tree of hope which had converted the barren and into a living green landscape. Okay friends, that's the end of the story. So what do you think after listening the story? Hopefully it will help you to improve your listening skill and your pronunciations, even though until now I'm still learning to spell in a good way. And this story also still taken from the Voice of Future book, and this is talking about the environment protections by planting some trees started from sapling like Kadra doing after getting the motivations from her uncle. And it could be done perfectly when we can see that the way of Kadra and the motivations of her to do something new in her village. Her friends really like to see many trees over there, and then they can find nests and also birds on that place, and they never seen before the conditions until many trees planted on that place. So if you want to try something new, you will get your best based on your effort. So hopefully this story could encourage your motivations to be a better person and improve yourself in your skill. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and bye.